You're listening to Keep Alive. Let's talk with a man with a loud microphone. Here he is, your host and mine, William Lee. Let's talk and welcome everybody to the show. I'm your host, William Lee, and today we're going to be talking about juveniles and what's going on. Now, you probably heard some of my podcasts, and if you haven't, well, let me refresh everybody that has and let those that haven't get an idea that we've been talking about juvenile delinquency, what the state of Washington is doing to help us with our raising our children since they decided they're better parents than we are, and some of the other hot topics that are going on concerning, that's right, juveniles in the state of Washington. Now, just recently I had the opportunity to listen to a couple of other podcasts, and I discovered that, there's more going on in what I ever anticipated. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, there's got to be a basic root of what's the problem is. So what we're going to do is a couple of shows and just talk about what's affecting our youth today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Today is the day. Yeah, I'm really excited about today. It's nice outside. Summer's coming. Kids will be getting out of school before long. And hopefully things will change for them. And maybe we can get some control of what's going on in their lives and help them out. I did not realize that the state of Washington has custody of over 11,245 kids. That's a lot of lives that they're working with. That's in the foster care program and in the other programs in the state of Washington. Now, here's an ugly fact that I want you to understand about these 11,245 young people that the state's telling us that they can take care of. 435, or 3.7% of the kids that are being taken care of by the state of Washington, which have been taken out of the homes, are missing. That's right, 435 of these children are missing. They can't find them. I don't know what to say. I grasp the air around me when I stop and think about that. And I thought, well, okay, out of that 11,000, is there some other counties that have a high problem with juvenile delinquency or a high problem with taking kids that are mentally or emotionally upset, that the parents are not really working with them, that they need help? In 2,449 in Clark County alone, which is incredible, those kids are being taken care of or looked at under the foster care system or the DHSH or Child Protective Services. 5.3 or 137 as of last year disappeared. Just, they're missing. It's as simple as that. Well, when I look at all these figures and facts, I got to think to myself, wait a minute, all these kids, they don't have a home, or what's going on? And why are children all of a sudden becoming a very large topic of conversation on all of the medias? Well, the first thing that I look at, naturally, is parenting. Are we having a parenting problem with our children now? The economy is bad. I don't care what Democrats, Republicans, or oafs or whatever say. The actual problem right now for parents is they've got to keep a roof over the child's head. They got to keep food. They got to keep utilities. To do so, because of the wonderful work of our president and administration, we're now all working double time, double jobs to manage a bag of groceries, basically. Prices of groceries have gone up roughly 16%. Some of the other stuff has gone up 6-7%. I guess the last time I looked overall, we've gone up 6% overall, and if you put together utilities, the cost of gas, which is skyrocketing, food, lodging, and the list goes on, insurance, health care, it just keeps piling on and on and on. And I think that the problem is now that the parents are so focused, in many cases, on trying to keep these things going for their family that the kids are kind of being slipped away behind the scenes. And what happens when you do something like that? Well, we have a problem. Now, I want you to also think about this factor. The ages between 13 and 18 years of age in the state of Washington are showing up with severe mental problems. Now, those are the ages that they've found that are showing up severe mental problems, trauma. And what causes this trauma is usually sexual abuse, bullying in schools, fear, or witness to violence. Now you're going to say, Bill, oh, come on, these kids, there's no reason for all of that. Our schools are much safer than they were before. Everything's much better than it was. Schools are really gearing up, and security measures, and the list goes on of wonderful things that the school districts are doing, such as counseling our children on what sexual identity they should or should not have. That's a great one, isn't it? Well, or proper pronouns, or the changes that are happening in the schools that they feel is important because they are smarter than the parent to be able to parent these kids. Well, what does that add up to? Well, dysfunctional families, because the teenager gets to the point where they're confused. They don't know what way to follow. Family problems, drug abuse. Oh, of course, no. Kids aren't smoking marijuana or doing anything of that naturally not. How could you say that, Bill? Independent loss of the family. When I say this, I say their independence is gone. They're lost. And in some cases, they end up in foster care because they get to the point where they're destructive juveniles. Depression sets in. Diabetes can be also one of the factors that'll set in the long term of real depression. And when you look at all these things, you say, well, what could cause this with kids? My goodness, this is impossible. That can't happen. Well, sure it can. Let me give you a simple, what I would say, realization to this problem. A young student wore a shirt to school. And on the shirt, there was wording on the shirt. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't anything that had 4 letters in it that, well, Joe Rogan and the rest use quite commonly. Wasn't that. But what I want to do is I'm going to play a cut for you. And this is a young boy who is standing in front of a governing body talking about the reason that he was kicked out of school and what happened to him. And this is one of the links that we've received concerning what's going on in schools. So let's play that and take a listen to what this young man had to say.
In the 7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with 2 adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe. Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only 2 genders. Nothing harmful, nothing threatening, just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I experienced I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears. I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experience disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one, yet not another? I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution.
There you are. There's one simple example for this podcast today. A young man who came to school not with a sports shirt on, which is objection to some schools, not with nasty words printed on it, not with a statement of faith, because we know God is not allowed in our school system. No, a simple thing, a simple sentence, and the truth. Nothing that should upset anyone. It wasn't targeted at anyone, as he's mentioned. Why do I bring this out? For 2 reasons. Number one, this young gentleman suffered naturally afterwards being bullied by some of the kids. That's normal. You know it's going to happen because he made a statement. He looked at his rights as a 12-year-old, like every 12-year-old should look at his rights, with the balance of his family support and spoke his mind. For that, I'm sure he's going to have a tough time going through school unless they homeschool him or move him to a different school. A lot of the problems that we find with juveniles happen because either we suppress their speech and force them into a situation where they feel that they are no longer a valid argument, that they can't think, they have to be ruled, that their ideology is no good, or that it would just be better if you let somebody of a higher power speak to you. I never could understand all this. I always thought the school was basically designed to teach you fundamentals, to encourage you, to give you tools, and actually educate you on culture, on how to read, arithmetic, and I can go through the list of several other items that schools no longer do. It's a shame, isn't it? Nowadays, because of budgeting or changes in the school systems, voters are fed up with having their property taxes increased every 5 minutes to build another school or to add more security to schools. We have advocates on the one side that aren't listening to the kids. Then we have the other side that listen to the kids but go too far overboard, whereas the kids are sitting right in the middle of the fence, not knowing which side they should join, basically. This causing, naturally, 2 things. It causes them to be detached from the school. Oh, yeah, school, I got to go, but, not the enthused or the enthusiasm of learning. It's, I got to go because it's the law, or my parents will kick me out of the house if I don't go to school. Next problem that we have is bullying. Now, everybody has seen it. Kids now have, naturally, cell phones. They're videoing and sending this out to social media, of what they feel is right or wrong. Or you have the influencers off of good old social media. Now, social media has taken a big hit because of the political elections. All that misinformation. Everybody's misinformation. Well, while this is going on, we kind of overlook the factor that the kids are looking at social media. Such platforms as TikTok, one of my unfavorite subjects to bring up, who way back when, if you remember right, had slapped the teacher in the head contest challenge, whereas a student would have another student take out his cell phone, flip it onto video, while the first student would go up, teacher's turned around, writing on the chalkboard, bam, you hit him in the back of the head. That goes on, and oh boy, what a video image, digitally ready to go to social media platforms. This is what educates kids. Let's face it. And in the school districts, of course, they're upset. Some of them are. Some of them are not. Some of them just throw them out of school for a week and say, hey, Johnny, go home and don't bring your phone back. Just don't bring your phone back when you come back. Or naughty, I'm going to call your parents, and you erase that immediately and you apologize. I'm sorry, but I'm against that. I'm 100% against that. If you get hit in the back of the head, intent, that's assault, period. It is a crime, and the student should be punished for that crime. And I don't mean taking away the cell phone or sending the student home for a day off because, well, they thought it was funny after they got home, of course. But, wow, I got 50 million views. Oh, kids straining themselves in social media for one thing and one thing only. I got to have those views. What happened when we had the pandemic? That really made it worse because isolation occurred. And that's all the way that they could actually get out of their home without leaving their home on social media, on so many of these different platforms, especially the video platforms where they could take their computer and their phone and a camera and just have a great time coming up with all these unique things while they're sitting at home, supposedly learning by computer or home-based schooling, which did not work. And they had all this extra time. Now, they're away from their friends, except on the computer. They're isolated, okay. They're told how things are going to go. They're scared to death of getting the disease, and let's face it, it was scary. Well, those things caused a major change in our juvenile population and in our kids' thoughts. It did. Isolation is a big issue with kids. Kids like to colonize. They like to be around people. And to take their friends away and say, okay, Johnny, I'm sorry, but you just can't, you can't see him today because we are in lockdown. That was 2 years, and almost 2.5 years in some cases. What goes on when you have that type of social media pressure going on? Because you got to have 50 million views, and you're locked up. Okay, well, naturally we got through that, didn't we? We evidently made it through the pandemic, and a lot of kids learned different things. Some of them were homeschooled and did very well. However, I don't think that the whole project was successful. Reason being is your parents are gone for the day. Now, Johnny, make sure at 9 o'clock you turn on your computer and you'll have some schoolwork sent down and you'll have to take tests. Now, Johnny, you're on your own, but make sure you do this. Of course, what happens? Johnny says, oh, wow, hey, man, they're gone. I'm going to fire this baby up, talk to my friends, and then I'm going to go over and get on some of these games, man, and become a gamer. I can release my tension. I can change my whole world and environment around me into a game format where reality is left outside. It's simple as that. Well, okay, there's some possibilities of why we're having problems. Now let's step into the next realm, teachers. Seattle School District is one of the bigger school districts in the state of Washington, and they've done some interesting things. As far as education is concerned, I'm always excited when they come out with another brainiac idea. I kind of like the idea that they're always looking out, especially the colleges and universities, for our environment, taking care of our environment. But what's taking care of the kids that are having problems because they didn't get 50 million views? They come to school, their attitude's a little, I don't care. I got to do this. Or, hey, man, Johnny really got something going yesterday. You know what he did? Yeah, he came into the classroom. He came in the classroom with a baseball bat, man. He was going to do the teacher in. Or, look at this. Hey, Fred, I got a gun in the locker. You know, it's just these items that happen in schools. Now, of course, we don't want kids to see police officers with, their actual uniform on, a club, handcuffs, even having a dog and a gun being exposed. You don't want that in schools, walking around outside to protect the kids inside. Kids that are afraid to death that somebody, maybe a teacher goes wacko. I mean, they're fighting off teachers as it is. Evidently, the boys aren't because they're enjoying it, sexual advancements. But, you get scared as a kid. I don't want to be hurt. I want to go to school, but I don't want to be hurt. We don't look at that. We don't look at bullying that well now, which is a major crisis. What all does this come together as? I'll tell you what it is. Mental help, because we have mental problems and kids needing to be taken care of through mental trained individuals, not school counselors that don't know how to put their slip-on shoes on. We need actual people that are professionals that are trained to help mental illness in our kids in schools. You always hear major shooting, but don't worry, we've got the team coming in that will talk to the students. Well, that's great. The team comes in only when there's a shooting. Professional mental health folks are only enlisted into a school situation if there's extreme violence. The rest of the time, well, we really don't need them. It's not that they don't need them. Don't get me wrong. School districts do need them. It's the problem is there's not a whole lot of them. And you know why? Well, I'll tell you why, because major insurance companies don't want to, spend any money on kids' mental health. I mean, hey, give me a first-year student in psychology and set them up with a couple of appointments with a psychiatrist, and that'll be enough. The kid will be fine. This is a kid that, maybe has a little aggression problem or whatever. What about the young man who actually drew out pictures, a gun, blood, made it clear to his parents that he was seeing his clothing floating in the room? Actually, before he went on a killing spree, let everybody know that he was having mental health problems. What did his parents do? Well, his mother kind of, ta-ta under the rug, oh, I'm busy type, I can imagine attitude, but I'll try to help you out. What did the father do? He bought him a gun. Yeah. So when he got the gun, he drew a picture of the gun. He drew a picture of people bleeding. Social media got a hold of all this, of course. Now, the school, obviously, I guess everybody in the school didn't see that he was having problems. And without any actual trained mental experts to spot this, that young man, after he got the gun, packed it in his book backpack with his books, went to school and killed, I think, 4 or 5 people. Isn't that wonderful? Now, everybody said, oh, that was horrible. It was a massive school shooting. We have had school shootings all over the United States. Okay? This isn't anything new. This is school shootings, period. What is the reason for these school shootings? Well, some of the points I've already brought out in this podcast. Should schools be responsible in any case of social media where they spot it, or they spot that Johnny or Susie is starting to act aggressively? Should they just ignore it? Like they ignored this young man who definitely yelled for help and nobody had the time to take him aside and get him help. Maybe the families of those dead children would have appreciated it a lot more if they would have. And maybe those children, God bless them all, would be alive today. This is wrong. Is the school held accountable for these types of things? Oh, of course not. Did they take action and throw him out of school? Did they call for a conference? Did they do any of this type stuff at all? No. And he murdered his class friends. Isn't that enjoyable? I can't think of anything more stupid than having that happen to begin with. And I'm telling you here and now that the school should have been responsible. Yes, the parents were responsible. Yes, the parents were punished. 15 years in jail, both of them, for aiding and abetting in that shooting. And they should have been. And that was the right move by the law. But to let the school off the hook and not severely go through and audit what's going on in that school is wrong. Turning away and saying, oh, well, that was a horrible shooting and the parents are responsible and the child's responsible, and giving a carte blanche to the school district to walk away from it is horribly wrong. Now, I want to take this example one step further and bring it home to Seattle. Just recently, a high school teacher, and I'm going to try to pronounce his name properly, Golas is his last name. His first name is Elon Golas. He is a Palestinian Muslim, I would assume. This gentleman is a track record as a Seattle teacher, has a track record of taking his students without parental permission to go through the courthouse a few years ago. And in fact, it was 2020 when he pulled that stunt and protest. But just recently, he's done one protest and a bunch of statements that should have bought him a ticket back to Palestine. Here's what he had to say, and we'll have the sound bites in the future. When he was asked by an interviewer if he thought that the shooting of women at the music in Israel concert was right, he said yes. When he was asked, you think it's all right for women to be raped? Oh, yeah. But who said they were raped? Okay, then is it all right for women to be killed? Yes. Now, if that is not a terrorist cell working in our school districts or our school system in Seattle, I don't know what else is. And what is the Seattle School District doing? They should have suspended him and helped the government give him a one-way pass back home where he belongs. I'm sorry, but I do not understand for 1 minute at all why those students should have the right to walk out of that classroom and demand that that teacher be fired, period. Seattle School District, well, we're doing an investigation. Until the investigation is completely taken care of and all sides are looked at, we have no comment. No comment. Does that mean you're going to leave the teacher teaching these students and insist those students sit there and listen to him? He advocated genocide to our kids in our schools. That is totally wrong. And, hey, let me explain something to you here before I get really, really upset. Yes, he has the right as a United States person to have First Amendment, Second Amendment, every amendment you can imagine, to be and make statements and believe in his culture as he deems necessity. But to advocate genocide, to advocate and corrupt the students' minds in that classroom that Jewish people should be taken out, raped, and shot is unforgivable, unhumane, and absolutely no place in a public school district, a community of this area, period, or any other state, or any other community or area. This was totally unexcusable. And the school taking the attitude, well, we got to investigate. Oh, my gee, I just can't believe that could happen, Harriet. What do you think, Susan? Oh, I think we better talk to the principal and the vice principal. Oh, okay, we'll have 4 rounds of coffee here at Starbucks, and let's just sit down and discuss this. Oh, no media, nobody talk to the media or you'll be fired. We've got to watch what we're doing because I'm sure this gentleman is, and I don't even consider him a gentleman, I consider him a monster, is probably a member of the Washington State Teachers Association. I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't. This is totally unacceptable. If I were a parent, I would be absolutely livid. And that's why I'm on this podcast today. And that's why we're going to be doing more podcasts, because I think the kids today are getting the short end of the shovel. The shovel is a device that I always use in the terminology that these kids are going to be digging up the past as they grow. They're going to be digging up the problems, and they're going to be looking for solutions. and then they're going to cover up everything that needs to be left behind to move America forward. These are our future leaders. We're not talking about juveniles that will always have parents controlling them or always have students in school, etc. These are future leaders of tomorrow. How many more Golos are in our school districts? How many more teachers are in our schools today that are taking sexual advancements on students? There's another subject. Think about this for a moment, folks. There's a lot of teachers that have taken sexual partners with their students. This is not learning, folks. This is not home ec. This is not history lessons. This is not civics. This is a war on our children. It's as simple as that. In a minute, we'll be right back with kind of a closing word from Jesse Walters from Fox. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Just recently, Jesse Walters came out with a kind of an interesting statement. He is on Fox News. You can find him all over social media. And he was talking about schools and what's going on. And here's what he had to say in a real short clip I want to play for you. So here we go.
When I was growing up, parents respected teachers and vice versa. They worked together to mold you into a productive member of society. If anything out of the ordinary happened at school, your parents would know. If you got into a fight, they called your parents. If you were flunking, they called your parents. If you were going on a field trip, your parents had to sign a permission slip. A lot of schools today are trying to completely cut mom and dad out of the equation. They don't want you to have any say in your kid's life. And they've taken it way beyond education. A mom in California is suing her school district because she says they secretly transitioned her fifth grade daughter. The fifth grader allegedly went to go see a guidance counselor because she was emotionally struggling after the death of her grandfather. The complaint says the guidance counselor then convinced the girl to adopt a male identity. The suit alleges that the counselor then told teachers to refer to the fifth grade girl by a boy's name, and she told the kid to keep it a secret.
Yeah, told the kid to keep it a secret from her parents. Now, when you look at this, of what the schools are doing, and then you compound it in the state of Washington with Washington's law that is claimed that the government is much better parents than we are, and that if the student needs help or is being abused, which if they're physically or mentally being abused, that's a different subject. But if we get into this sexual identity crisis crap, now the parents should have the first round to take care of this within the home. Oh, no. Johnny goes to talk to somebody, as Jesse just said, in this particular lawsuit coming up in California. Well, they want to talk for a few moments, and what happens? Well, I'll tell you what happens. We get into sexual, identity, and then the proper pronouns, and the list goes on. Can you see where we're headed? Can you see where the youth of this country, and the reason why they're so confused? Because they don't have the parents and the leadership that are required to help them grow and to become adults, to help them understand what America is all about. I hope someday we can straighten these things out and the kids are not going to be lost forever. I appreciate you being with me. This is part 1 of a 3-part series. And I'll be back again with more information about how we can help our kids and make a better lifestyle and a better tomorrow for the beautiful country that I live in, America. Until then, have a great day. And by the way, we hope that you and your family can be at peace knowing that, everything will work out if we all work together with a simple conversation.